We're live now.
Good evening. Here we are again, back with another Soulful House Mafia. Tuesday night, I am here in Spain. Andy Ward, it's just 8 o'clock, and sending a shout out to everyone that's picking up the recording, as we do get a hell of a lot of you coming back to watch this whenever is convenient for you. Tonight, we've got three great guys who are going to tell you about their part in the story. But before we do that, I want to draw your attention to this flyout that we've been mentioning for the last few weeks. It's taking place this weekend. It's a big one. It's on Sunday, the 3rd of October. Dance for Stevie. Bobby and Steve, two of the guys who are without a shadow of a doubt responsible for the UK soulful house scene as we all know and love it, and you can see a world of people are out in full support for them. I'll give it another plug again at the end of tonight's show, but that's at the Ministry of Sound. If you can't make it along for whatever reason, then you are able to donate, show some love, show some appreciation, as I say, for two gentlemen who we all owe so very much to. Without further ado, let me flick on over to my fantastic studio guest today and say good evening to our resident panelist, fellow Soulful House Mafia, Mr. Craig Bartlett. How are you, Craig?
Good evening, gents. Yeah, good. All good. I will have to apologise in advance. The little noise in the background is the ever-increasing in size little Mexican gangster that's causing complete havoc in South Wales as we speak, trying to chew my arm and the settee off.
Good old Asbo. Good old Asbo. Okay, we also have alongside Mr. Bartlett, Mr. Craig Smith, who shall be from here on in known as Mr. Smith, so as to not confuse matters. How are you, Craig? You're right, bro?
Very good, pal. You well?
Yes, very good. Great to have you here. And then to his right, or depending on how you're looking at it, Mr. Butler, Steve Butler. How are you, sir? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. Well, thank you.
Now, I'm surprised to see how dark it's got for you, Steve, within the last, 5 minutes. The sun's starting to go down there for you, is it?
It's either that or a massive cloud, because the weather was all right today, and all of a sudden, as it does in the northeast, a big cloud sort of suddenly comes over. So yeah, it's probably not as dark as it actually looks.
Right. Okay. Well, I can see you fine. You guys can hear me. We've been doing tests out of our ears, and I want to start off by saying hi to Cliff. Welcome along, bro. Nice to have you with us. I filled you both in, Mr. Smith and Mr. Butler, on what this is about. It's just our opportunity to reminisce about days of old, find out how you both became so well respected in the scene. I think it's fair to say you're two very humble guys, and also two very well respected from your peers within the scene, and you've both got a great story to tell. Before we do that, let me just catch up with Craig, because it's been a couple of weeks since Mr. Bartlett and I spoke. Coming to the end of the summer for you, mate. Lockdown over. How did the parties fare for you?
Well, when you say the end of the summer, and Steve, I don't know, it was so nice in the north. Today in South Wales, it was apocalyptic. We had a month's worth of rain in South Wales today alone. And I'm just so thankful I'm not doing any bloody parties this weekend, to be fair. But we've got away with some really, really nice rooftop parties, which is a bit of a departure for us, really. Always been involved in clubs, but never sort of veered away from traditional nightclubs with sweaty, chaotic environments. And it's been really, really, really nice for us. Some fantastic guests, got through the lockdown. And I think that impetus and excitement for people that haven't been out for a couple of years, that have sort of gone on and lived their lives and moved away from clubbing, has reinvigorated their love for the scene, which has just been amazing, seeing faces that I first remember seeing as a 20-year-old DJ. And I've known these fellas and girls for 30 odd years, and to see them letting loose again under the moonlight, out and the stars, has been fantastic. So yeah, it's been fantastic. So really, really pleased.
Good. Well, towards the back end of this conversation, I will find out how Messieurs Smith and Butler have been getting on at the back end of all of this craziness. But I guess I would like to take them both back, way back into time, as the lyrics in the song say. Seeing as Craig is next to you seeing as Mr. Smith is next to Mr. Bartlett, let me start off with you, Craig. I always say that it's impossible to capture a life story in these short interviews, but tell me where you feel you put yourself on the map musically, where you feel is a pivotal moment in the history of Craig Smith.
Wow, quite a serious question.
No. Okay, whatever. You can be sniffing glue within that story if you want to.
You know what? It's something that I always bring up. It was not early. It's quite reasonably late in my career. But first time I ever played Southport.
Okay.
I played, and it was me. It was during the day. And it was a big thing for me. It was during the day. And then Ben Westbeach was on. And then Phil was on after. And Ben Westbeach didn't turn up. But I was playing, and then it was going really well, but I had to come off. And then Ben Westbeach didn't turn up. And I turned to Phil and said, I thought he's going to take over now, so I better just give him. He actually turned around and went, "No, it's your time," and I got an extra hour, right? And it ended up being, it just went tremendous for me.
Amazing.
Well, I was happy. I got a lot of work out of it. A lot of people were like, "Oh, right, that's what you do. Right, that's what you get up to. Right. Okay, we've heard about you, but we've actually seen you now, and all because of him."
Right. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. We'll get to that bit because that is an important part, a huge part of the story. But when people say they've heard of you, how did they hear of you? Where did you get to that point where you were being spoken about? Tell us. I mean, this is difficult knowing so much about you and knowing how close we all are. I guess we should say you need to give us an insight as to who you are and how you began. Really.
I mean, showing my age, I'm the oldest, probably.
Only by a couple of years.
Yeah. So, first gig was 1987. I remember that. I was always a punter. Even when I was young, I started going to the soul dues when I was 14. Moving through dance music as it moved. Going to DJing by proxy. I didn't want to do it. Never wanted to DJ. I just wanted to go and dance.
Who were you dancing to at the time then?
I used to go to a club called the Hoochie.
Okay.
In Edinburgh. Yogi Horton, who you'll know. Warren Thompson, who now runs the Hoochie in Newcastle, that I play for.
Very well revered.
Inspiration, that club.
Very well revered from, and he has a very good ethic behind the way that he runs and promotes it, and the non-profit method behind it all.
Warren Thompson is the best owner, because he's an owner as well as a promoter in the country, bar none. Like, just because nobody puts he's had Shaka Khan in there. Like, it only holds 200 odd people. You know what I mean? It's like, he's not going to make money out of that, but he did it because he wanted to.
So he was running all the way back in the late 80s. Was he a former DJ himself?
No, he was a resident there.
Okay. Oh, you did say, yeah, you did say.
That's the first club I ever had a gig at, 87.
Okay.
He was a resident with Yogi. I used to go there week in, week out. It was fantastic.
And so you became a DJ. You say you had no intention.
No, I just had a collection. They needed a break one night. It went on, they needed a break one night. I was always there. I was 17, 18.
So did you go down the usual path? Are we all sharing the same path of the 80s soul, funk, hip hop into hip hop, all that break dancing?
Standard. Yeah.
Any good on a windmill? Could you? Yeah.
No, I can up rock.
Wonderful. I'll bear that in mind. You and Mad Matt's chest to chest.
I can up rock, but that's about it.
Okay, I want to say hi to Martin Roche. I think I'm pronouncing that correct. I've never actually had to say it out loud. He says we'll get to some honeycomb stories at some point. Okay, so Mr. Butler, currently residing in the north of England, but as many will hear, It's not a North of England accent. So tell us your story, bro.
Well, basically, I guess I started. It was. I'd always had a big collection of soul, disco, in the sort of late '70s onwards. And then in '88, I went to Ibiza with friends of mine, and they knew Boy George's sister, Siobhan O'Dowd, quite well, and got us on the guest list for the opening night of Boy George's at I forgot the name of the club now. What's the big open air club?
Coup? Was it Coup at the time, or Es Paradis? Amnesia? Come on, let's name them all.
No.
Space.
Anyway.
DC10.
No. It'll come to us in a second. I'll stop.
Privilege.
But Alfredo. Sorry, what was that?
Privilege.
No. Alfredo and Adamski were playing, and I already had a massive, collection, and just hearing someone compiling the music that way, I just, as soon as I came home, just bought 2 turntables and started making tapes, and then giving the tapes to my mates. Early house music was around, and my mate Dave Green asked me to play at his birthday party, which was in a little squash club in Erith. Only held about 150 people, and we probably had 120 in there or something. And a guy called Kevin Dawes came up to me halfway through my set and said to me, "What do you do on Fridays?" And I was like, "Oh, well, we go to Limelight sometimes, gardening club." He said, "How do you fancy playing every week in Limelights for 150 quid?" I said, "Are you serious?" He said, "No." I said, "I'm the promoter." So that was my first sort of shoe-in. And literally within 2 weeks of playing at Limelights, and at the time, Raid had Danny Rampling, Paul Oakenfold, Pete Tong, Nicky Holloway. The lineup would probably cost the neck end of, 100K now. And I was playing early on, and the second week I was there, bumped into a friend of mine whose friend was going out with Laurent Garnier. And he came down and saw me and asked me if I wanted to play Wake Up Paris. So within a really short space of time, I had 2 massive and really lucky breaks. And even on the first night at Limelights, I played downstairs. And as soon as I finished playing, I had a good skinful. Everyone, we're all really into the party vibe. Kevin came up to me and he went, he said, "You're not going just yet?" "Oh, yes." "No, I'm staying to the end." To this day, I can't remember whether it was Pete Tong or Paul Oakenfold, but one of them couldn't make it for the main room upstairs. He said, Can you play? And I was like, yeah, I'll play. And I remember telling my mate, Phil, I went, "Phil," I said, "I'm going to play upstairs. And he took one look at me, he went, "It's in the state here." And I went, "Oh, no, I'll be fine. And I went upstairs, and Darren Emerson was playing before me. And when I actually sort of think back at the time, Darren Emerson, Laurent Garnier, Lawrence Nelson, those guys were streets ahead technically of anyone. They really were tight. And I remember sort of listening to Darren thinking, "My God, I'm following Darren Emerson. This is ridiculous." And I went on. I had a terrible pair of headphones. They weren't even pro headphones. And there was no booth control. It was just like a speaker close up as part of the system. It was blaring away. And Darren was like banging it out. And first record I went to put on, I thought, I just need to get my bearings. So I'm just going to drop this record in, like play a big intro, and then get going from there. So dropped the record in. Dropped it in at the wrong speed, and then I went to turn it to the right speed, and I turned the record off, and then I turned it on again at the wrong speed again, and then I turned it on to the correct speed, so the records go, But back in '88, you could get away with stuff like that, and sure enough, I did. I was thinking, "Oh my God, I hope Kevin's not anywhere near to start," And then I just sort of remember about 3 records in, the DJ booth was in the main room at the time was on the balcony level. So all the way around, you could see the dance floor below, and then all the way around on the balcony, you could see people. I remember playing, I can't remember what the record was now, but about the third record I played and it just took the roof off. And I just remember being part of something so big, you know, it was a real moment, you know. I was in there and in the middle of a party that was a great party, and I was punching way above my weight. You know, some people have to wait years to get an opportunity like that, but it just made me realize and want it, you know, more and more. So then I started running my own nights and making a bit of music. The first track I made was with the Stewart brothers and Richard Thayer, called Future Vision, and Richard Thayer played percussion on it, and then started getting a few gigs in Liverpool, Leeds, and then me and Rich started kind of going around together. So I'd DJ and Rich would bring his percussion along. And we used to drive in his old, he had like an ex-council van that still had you could still see where it had Hammersmith Council on the side, and the stickers were taken off. And it still had the orange light on the roof. It was like some sort of maintenance thing. And we drove all over the country and that. And yeah, that was kind of my start of moving out of London.
Baptism of fire. I mean, I'm sure we've all got so many tales of things going horribly wrong when we're out and about. So listening to that, Mr. Smith, Steve mentioned that he dabbled in the production. Was it some time before you would start making music yourself after you started DJing? I mean, I know we're going to do the timeline, but was it only many years later? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay. So take us back then to these hazy days in Edinburgh. Try and paint the picture for someone like myself. I hear of places. I'm not even going to try and reel them off the top of my head now because I can't remember. I know the Archies was in Glasgow, wasn't it? There was.
Edinburgh had a great scene at one point in the 90s, not only for house music, but because we had a place called The Venue. And there was a club called Pure. Have you ever heard of Optimal?
No.
These were the guys that were the residents now. They're about now as Optimal, but these were the residents.
Okay.
And like it was revered by the proper Detroit guys. You know, you get Underground Resistance, Juan Atkins. Like you had that on one night, and then we would be on, and we'd have like Carry On in the mid-90s. Like when we were doing our nights in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another night in Edinburgh who was at the same venue as the techno one on a Friday called Tribal Function. And it was like more Chicago. So it was like Gene Farris, all that crew, Lil Lewis. It was amazing. DJ Sneak was big there. So you got to remember, Edinburgh there's only 500,000 people live in Edinburgh. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, it's quite an unusual city. Unfortunately, now it feels pretty generic, like any city. I think that's societal. I think that's a societal thing.
Do you think? I mean, without going off onto some social commentary, do you think it might have something to do with the comedy festival as well that kind of changed Edinburgh?
No. That's why Edinburgh was good.
Okay.
That's why Edinburgh was good. But like, it's the festival, the Edinburgh Festival. It's like anything. It's overblown. It's commercialized. There's no essence to what it was like when I was young. It used to be see back in the day when we put nights on, it was the time you wanted to put a club on
because you had all the people coming into
and
the town.
Licenses were late, and like it was like being like, you know, we had 5 o'clock licenses every night and blah 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 blah, and there was interesting people about. You could do a Wednesday night, it'd be packed.
So how did you get to that point where you became a promoter?
But now you wouldn't put one on when the festival's on.
Because it's the most commercial crowd you could ever get.
Well, no, it's not even that. It's like it actually used to be a thing where it would actually add to the you know, to your crowd. But now there's so much on. There's so much disparate things on that it's.
No, it's diluted. So how did you get to the promoting stage then? How did that come
Well,
about?
I never really promoted. I was lucky that there was always somebody with me that was good at promoting.
Okay, and then you were just
And I was doing the
you were
music.
just.
I'd be like, we need to book them. I'll do this. Blah blah blah.
Hmm. So who was coming up with you when you did finally start to feel you made a name for yourself in the
Well,
mid
first off,
'90s?
it was Woody. Remember Woody, Craig Wood?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everybody remembers Woody. Remember we had In Demand, used to run the label. That's when we first started doing production. And he helped promote a night that I used to run called Soul Fusion, which started in the mid 90s. That ran for about 3 or 4 years. And it was with a guy called Mikey Stutton, who went on to be Bugs in the Attics manager and now manages James Blake. He was a young guy who used to come when I DJ'd, and he was into the same music as me. So, I always needed a G up. I was terrible. I used to just like, especially back then, I'd be like complaining about everything and never doing anything about it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
As you get older, you realise there's no point in complaining about anything. If you really don't like something, do something about it or be quiet. Maybe make a track, promote your own party, So I was lucky that I had him in the beginning. Somebody like Woody, who was smart, savvy, but knew how to try and do something properly. I would have been lost. I didn't have the temperament for it either. And then obviously later on, it was Fleur.
Mm-hmm. So did Fleur and was she officially your manager or just a good friend who had the drive and the contacts to help push you in the right direction? I mean, we'll expand on who Fleur is for anyone who may not know eventually.
I don't know. I've never really thought about it because it was organic.
Mm-hmm.
So
how did you meet Fleur and Kenny then?
Right. Well, Kenny's an old friend. That Fleur became his partner.
Okay. So you knew Kenny. So you knew Kenny first, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Kenny used to come to the club, music, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it worked.
So these are two people who then eventually would go on to be behind running Soul Heaven Nights, as well as Fleur managing Louis Vega, many of the American DJs across Europe. So that would have been another big part of that into the mid 90s. So Steve, let's come back to you, and Craig, Mr. Bartlett, feel free at any point to ask any questions if you want.
It's just wonderful to listen to these stories from two heavyweight, influential gentlemen of our scene.
I've lost a few pounds.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that as well a little bit later on. Yeah, I did say at the beginning, heavyweight, revered, most definitely held in such high esteem. So, Steve, you talked about getting out of London then and venturing up north.
And I just backtrack a bit.
For sure.
You're going to laugh at the name of the club. Amnesia, of course, it's Amnesia. I forgot.
I'm sure I said Amnesia. Yeah, you obviously got touched with a little of amnesia.
Yeah, like massive amnesia.
Well, fair play for sitting there in silence, waiting to share that.
Or trying to work it out for the last 10 minutes.
What were you saying, Mr. Smith? None of us were listening to a word you was.
Where are you from, Craig?
Pasha, El Divino. Okay then, Steve. So yeah, the next part of when you ended up.
The next bit, I started a residency in, I think it was 94, in Newcastle. And when I tell, when I'm up in Newcastle now and people say to me, oh, how'd you come to Newcastle? I always say to them, well, I came to Newcastle to DJ one night and never went home. And it's maybe not quite that drastic, but it was a little bit like that. So I started doing a Thursday night. I lived in a hotel called the Waterside Hotel every Thursday for 2.5 years. And that was my sort of start to my draw to the Northeast. And being a Thursday night as well, it's great because it sort of took me up the country. I could still go back, and I started doing the Empire in Middlesbrough on a Friday, doing other things on a Friday. And then, of course, it left Saturday open to do you know, Back to Basics or Money Pennies, or, you know, sort of moving around, Venus, things like that, things in Nottingham as well. So I moved from Lee, which is near Blackheath and Lewisham, southeast London, up to Nottingham, because a lot of my work was in the Midlands at the time. And it just, my friend Richard Frost basically had run a club in Leicester called Splendid, and he had a massive house in West Bridgford. And when I talked about coming up and living in Nottingham, he said, why don't you come and live with me? So I went and lived with him for a bit. At the same time, Breeze, God rest his soul, he also came and lived in the same house. So it was a bit of a kind of DJ's house. And we actually ended up running a night called Madhouse, which was kind of ripped from Kerry Chandler's label. Don't tell Kerry though. But
it's recording, Steve. It's recording.
It was a long time ago. The name was kind of was from there, but yeah. So we ended up doing some stuff in Nottingham, and then we came back down to London, did a cross for a little while. But at the same time, I was becoming sort of quite popular up in the Northeast, and I think me being a DJ from London and being up in the Northeast gave me. I mean, there's some great DJs up in the Northeast, and there was Shindig was running at the time. You know, there's a lot of local DJs who are really good, but it did give me something maybe a little bit different.
A bit of an edge. Actually, put a pin in that moment. Craig, we must get to talk to Scott and Scooby at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So coming back to you then, Steve.
They've got. I'd love to hear them on here, because they've got some great stories, especially Scott. Yeah, he's a funny guy. So
I got a wicked Shindig story. I'll save that.
well, there's
You know, I never went. I've never been.
No,
Never been.
wow,
Incredible.
that's
So how did you say you were getting all of these gigs? I know Craig's was quite laid back with his approach. Were you quite driven, Steve, or did you have other people who were helping to push you? Was there any kind of agency on the scene or management or anything like that?
Going out with the girl who was doing a promotion on the Thursday night.
Okay.
And she then ended up running a new bar that was opened up on the quayside that was really different to anything else that had happened. And we ran a Sunday night there called Cool Note, and it was on the back of playing at the Cafe Del Mar and playing with Jose and Richard and Breeze, that I wanted to do something that was like a chill out session. So started doing that. It was very Cafe Del Mar in the sort of music policy to start off with, and then it became more and more popular. Eventually we moved that from that venue to the Picture and Piano at the same time that I'd started doing Southport. And we came back from Southport one weekend and literally went straight to doing Cool Note. I mean,
but when you say doing Southport, visiting Southport or playing at Southport?
Actually playing.
So how does that come about? You don't just one day get a gig at Southport.
Well, from doing all the stuff in Newcastle, Alex Lowe's wanted to do Saturday night in Newcastle, and he spoke to a guy called Richard Short and said, who's my resident? And he said, there's only one man, and that was me. So fortunately, that came about. I ended up I was thinking, this is great. I'm going to work for Alex, and I'm going to be, I'll be doing Southport next. Well, I still had to wait, I was like, it was about a year and a half before.
Was the Manor Born on the scene by this time, or did that come after?
Manor Born was on the scene. I only did that a couple of times. I think, obviously, I was doing my Sunday thing anyway. And there was already quite a few residencies at the Manor Born. I mean, when they had the big, like the all-day events, then I got kind of drafted in, but there was like the likes of Pete Warren, Rob Oxley, Michael Johnson, they all were the kind of residencies from the man. And Lyndon C was quite big. He was coming up all the time for play there. So, but yeah, so backtracking a bit, I started playing for Alex, and then got my first gig with Alex, which I don't know whether he didn't trust me or something at first, but he said, right, he said, I'm going to get you to play with Billy, because me and Billy had done one of the Sunday sessions, and it had moved on a little bit from being a sort of chill out session. We still played some chill out stuff, but then we played some sort of some deeper house, you know, just more. It was still fairly low key, you know, nothing too crazy. But anyway, after we'd done the Southport Weekender, I came back to go straight from Southport to doing my Sunday. And obviously at the weekend, I'd seen a load of people that said, oh, you're going to come back to the picture on Sunday. Loads of people came back, and it just went from being like, you know, a few people used to have a little dance around, but it was more of a bar scenario. But half of Southport, like half of the Northeast Southport crew who'd been to Southport all weekend, came, and it just went madness. Like literally the bar staff were up on the bar, everyone was up on the bar, people were up on tables, you know, it just turned into a full-on out of control rave with no doorman, you know, it was bedlam. So it went from this being this chill out thing.
So are we talking 94, 95 times?
Oh no, this is quite a bit later.
Okay.
I didn't start, I think the first time I played at Southport was 2000.
Oh right,
so
okay.
Quite a few years after that.
I'm sure you was a resident for Southport for many years before that.
2000 is still like 21 years.
No, it is. But when you think back, I mean, you know,
I used to go. I mean, I remember when I got the shout for working with Alex, and then finally got the shout for doing Southport. You know, I don't know. You'll probably agree, guys, that when you get the nod to do that gig, that's the moment where you think.
Mine wasn't until 2010.
Really? I thought you'd been.
Every year I got told, just you have to be a bit bigger. and they were right.
And I think I was lucky as well, you know, because when he first, as I said, Alex paired me up with Billy Davison, and we had he put us in the I think it was called the Jazz Room at the time, and he gave us the proper graveyard shift. You know, it's like 7 o'clock in the morning, and you know, I was sort of on the Friday night, and all the people I knew there were saying, oh, please do us a favour, so just stay up for our set, you know, whatever you do, if you could, like, we need some people, some support. And we played, and me and Billy absolutely smashed it. You know, I think it was one of the first times that room had been busy or kept people in it until the end. And then the following time, Alex labelled that Friday night as Billy Davison and Steve Butler's legendary deep house session, and that became our thing, doing the late set. So, which
I like this. We got one when I did it with Graham. You know, Graham, my partner, I do the Six Borough project with.
Yes, yeah.
So we got the Connoisseurs one night, and it was what time was it? It was like it was like 6 in the morning on a Friday night in the Connoisseurs in the old place.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, it was Con that was on before us, and he's like, "Can I play another one?" Because I came on late, and we were like, "Yeah, of course, mate." Just
yeah.
And then he played another one, and then he played another one, and then he played another one, and I was like, it's like, I'm going to get to, everybody's going to go, but it's like folk hang about at that time.
Yeah.
It was a good session, that.
Yeah.
Really good session.
The stories, the tales, I mean, just incredible. I saw Alex talking to Lenny Fontana, and he was a little bit shy, actually, the stories that guy has got to share, and the the responsibility.
You know, this is difficult for me. Surprisingly, I talk all the time, but I find it very difficult to do this.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I think it's just us all chatting. I hope I'm not coming across
Yeah,
like
no, no,
I'm grilling you.
no, no.
It's all good
I need
friends.
to do these things,
And
but
afterwards, you will. And I'll say many occasions you'll kick yourself and say, I can't believe I forgot this, I forgot that,
oh, no.
I didn't mention that
Name of
person.
amnesia.
But I mean, Southport, pivotal. Craig, did you ever actually play, Mr. Bartlett? Did you ever get to play at Southport?
Only 3 times.
Only
and
three
not
times.
Only 3 times. But again, it was that, Alex and Dave, God rest his soul, and Nick, for years and years and years, from going and meeting everybody. And, Alex, you remember, I do DJ, I am a DJ. Every time you're having a drink and you give me that little nudge and, would you like another drink, Alex? You remember I'm a DJ. You might not do soulful house music every time. And, it was for years and years and years. And then he just said to me once, he said, oh, I got a gig for you. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. I was like, yeah, wicked, amazing, got to have it. Not realising that 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they've all been up till 9 in the morning listening to Craig and The Revenge, or Steve in his at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and they've gone back to their challies. Everyone's still at it. And then 2 o'clock in the afternoon comes, everyone's crashing and burning, getting ready for the big Saturday. So I turned up all excited. No one's there. Literally nobody. But then, in my defense, after a couple of hours, I think I played for 3 hours, just in one of like the bar room, or I think it might have been, I don't know what it was called, but just to have the experience for me playing in that environment with my name on the flyer, being included, that was enough for me. Yes, I would have loved to have played the main room, but Jesus Christ, there was 5,000 fellas in front and women in front of me, and always would have been in front of me, just being a promoter, not being a producer, and not having that massive platform, because there was hundreds of us promoters that were promoting good soulful out.
I think I only got my shot. This is my opinion. Maybe Alex would say differently. Steve, you'll remember the summer that I went out and I helped Alex push the Southport and Soul Heaven collaboration down and play at Dembossa. Worked my ass off for him, and then at the end of the summer, it was the summer before we relocated to Spain, and then he said, Andy, great job, mate. I've got, it's about time we put you on the bill. And so, yeah, I opened up for Masters at Work in the Powerhouse.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was that not one of the hardest things you've ever done in your entire life?
What's Ibiza or warming up for Masters?
No. Ibiza. Because I'll tell you what, I just remember it just being, I was actually still working back in Newcastle every week, as you well know. So I was flying backwards and forwards all the time, and I was doing a Friday night. I was getting off the plane at 8:25, starting work at 9 on a Friday night, 2 gigs on a Saturday, Sunday finishing the picture and piano at 1:30. I was flying out at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I put my Spanish sim in, and the first message I'd get would be from Andy saying, where's the staff? We had people dropping like flies. It was only Charlie and Helen, wasn't it? They were the 2 girls from Newcastle stayed with us for 13 weeks.
It's crazy. I think I got brought in halfway through the summer, didn't I, to help Rob.
Yeah.
I did the final 6 or 7 weeks, but yeah, that was tough, man. That was tough, and it was crazy because when you look back on it, and especially living in Spain now, how naive we were, everybody involved, ourselves, Alex, the Soul Heaven people, because we were out giving out flyers at like 6:30, 7 o'clock around San Antonio of an evening. Everyone's still on the beach. Some people still haven't got out of bed. We did it all so wrong, didn't we, Steve? We got it so wrong.
It was killer.
And some of the lineups were incredible there as well. Some of the lineups were absolutely fantastic.
The problem was as well, I knew we were on a bit of a hiding to nothing because I was flying backwards and forwards all the time, getting on the plane with like loads of party goers from Newcastle to Ibiza, and you just hear people on the plane and they're telling you where they're going on what day. So they've already made their mind up as to where they're going. I can't remember at the time whether you could buy tickets for events
in advance
like
online.
and now.
I don't think you could. I don't think you could online. They had the tickets that are around in the shops, but as you say, no, everybody knew where they were going. And then this Sunday at a venue that nobody knew down in Playa d'Embossa, which the part of Playa d'Embossa that nobody really knew as well. I mean, everything about it was just, you know, again looking back in hindsight, it's quite funny. So we're rabbiting on about those glory days that we've had. Craig, let's come back, Mr. Smith. Let's come back then to one of the stories where you said a pivotal moment in Southport. You mentioned Mr. Phil Asher. Had you gotten to know Phil well at that stage?
Oh yeah, I met Phil in 94, 95 it was. He played for us at this club I was telling you that Woody and Mikey Stutton and I ran, Soul Fusion. See, there's another one taking somebody's name. Taking somebody's name for Soul Fusion. Louis will be on to us.
A few have done it ever since. I wouldn't worry about that.
Well, that's what I get. My kill it. They're just like it gets put out like it's something new. It's like, mate, I can show you flyers for '94. It's like behave. Yeah. So, you know me. I'm just never into like half the thing with promoting. And I was like picking the DJs up, and it's like I just was like, oh, I'll see them at the club. Yeah. Like I was never one to come and meet them at the station or. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I'm terrible.
I like that. No, Craig, you know that.
I mean, and I'd always like Woody and all that would like sort it out, and it'd always get sorted. But I remember that day, because it's obviously pre-mobile phones. I was in the house, and they happened to catch me on the house phone, and they're like, "Look, he's looking to have a smoke," and it's like obviously bring him to mine. And we just opened the door to each other. We just looked at each other and went, "All right, all right." And we kind of looked like each other. And then he came in and we just realised that we were just two sides of the same coin. Mm-hmm. But honestly, from that moment, it's like, you know, some people you're instantly like connected to.
Yeah.
And I know Phil made people feel like that.
Yeah.
But it was genuinely like, the 6 months between us, like he started going through my record collection, like pulling out like old jazz funk things or just whatever and going, okay. And then, like, we just got, and he had a great gig. And from that moment, that was a friendship.
Friendship was formed. Would you say that he took you under his wing, or were you side by side? Did you see him as a mentor, or were you like traveling at the same pace? If you know what
I mean? I separated him very early on as the artist and my mate.
Right.
Immediately, I always respected him and thought he was a don. As a producer, as a DJ, straight away I was like, "You can't."
Yeah. So you put Flash on the pedestal, but Phil was the tosser you'd rib for nicking all your Rizzlers.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
That's how I treat everybody. To be honest, that's how I treat everybody.
Mm-hmm. And that's the way. That's
the
way it should be.
It's not helping me get ahead. I'll be honest with you.
But I think you're a very genuine person, Craig.
There's been a few incidents.
No, but you're a very genuine person, and you don't suffer fools gladly.
When I've told quite well paid people the truth.
Yeah. When they didn't necessarily want or need to hear it.
No, they probably didn't need to hear it, but they.
Go on, Craig. It's an example.
I'm a reformed character.
Give us some grief. I want to send a shout out to Cy Grace, also to Matt. Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening to anyone else that's with us, and of course, all the people.
Sorry, just going back to that Southport thing, Ellen's just reminded me, actually, Sarah favoritism was instrumental in getting me. Do you remember the old VIP room at the back of the powerhouse?
Yes.
Was it the Red Stripe room or something?
Something like that it was called, yeah. She was instrumental, actually. Her and her partner at the time, like it was another great DJ. They got me into that VIP. So I had a couple, so I've done it more than 3 times, actually. I did a couple of those little VIP room things. And it was sponsored by a beer because it was full of beer.
It was Red Stripe. I put money on it being Red Stripe.
Yeah, it must have been.
Or Bacardi, even.
It wasn't the Bacardi bar. It was a little VIP bar. Not quite a small thing, but quite an interesting little space. tiny, dark, sweaty, but amazing. At the back of the powerhouse, the other side.
It was it was just wedged behind the connoisseur's corner, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. So I had to say thank you to Sarah for doing that for me, because she started doing a lot of the promotion then for Alex, didn't she? She got on board to do the PR and stuff for him when she was getting, a bit bigger in the game. Like, so yeah.
I've asked Sarah to come and join us on this, but again, she's also very shy. You'd be surprised, how many people, as Craig has just said.
Andy, I was really close to telling you I'm not doing this.
Well, we're very glad that
I
you
knew
did.
I would regret it. No, I knew I'd regret it.
So now you've really gone out your way to take your time. I want to hear one of these stories. It doesn't have to be names. Come on, give us a nugget.
No, it's just it's nothing. It's just like, without going into specifics, it's just it's just telling people, look, you're full of shit. You know what I mean? Because we know we've all been enough years in this game to be behind the scenes to see people acting the fucking goat.
Yeah.
Regardless of the size, or mainly the big ones, but like,
of course.
Like, what the orange juice is the wrong type.
Yeah.
It's like,
but don't you think that's got worse now though?
10 grand, do one.
Yeah. Do you think that's got worse though? Because
I don't know, because I'm not.
I see these riders and the demands, and it's like, no, the club holds 300 people. Yeah, but he still wants £40,000 in red M&Ms. Yeah, but the club holds 300 people.
Mine is my rider is basically 4 bottles of water, sealed, and 3 grams of some local,
herb.
Herb.
That's basically it.
Mine is water. Mine is water, Coke, full fat, and tea.
Wonderful. Well, let's talk about that, Steve, because we do joke about it and we do jest. We've all been up there rubbing shoulders with the superstars, flying around the world, jet setting it. There was a point where that got a little bit much for you, wasn't there? Let's just talk very briefly about that, Steve. When did you realise that things were getting a little bit out of hand for you?
I've suffered from anxiety, and the first time I experienced it was in the mid-90s in Ibiza, and I had a full-blown panic attack in a car, and it was from basically staying up all night, drinking too much, just basically misbehaving for a few nights in a row, and my body and my mind just sort of as it does, just couldn't handle it, and that's how the sort of anxiety started. And for 25 years, I actually had a really unhealthy balancing act between self-medicating anxiety with alcohol, and I misused alcohol. So I've been DJing 32 years now. I would say half of them I've been sober and half of them I've been drunk. And not completely out of control all the time, but there were times when at the end of sort of periods of drinking, when the wheels did come off in quite a major way, and I ended up being admitted to hospital on several occasions. Now, I tried various different programs. I'd been into rehab a couple of times. I'd had psychotherapy. I'd tried AUK. And Alcoholics Anonymous, because I thought I was an alcoholic. Now, I've got a slightly different view on that now, because I don't think, for me, I'm an alcoholic. I think that my misuse of alcohol was a symptom of my anxiety and my mental health, my state of mind. And about 5.5 years ago, after my last drink, and again, I was in the hospital, a friend of mine said, you need to speak to my friend Gav Rogers, and he's a life coach, and we spent the next 18 months doing an hour. At first it was 2 times a week. We'd had a Zoom session, and it wasn't like any kind of rehabilitation that I'd done before. It wasn't really focusing on alcohol or the misuse of alcohol. it was more focusing on life and building life skills, moving forward, looking at a way of, because I've always found it quite easy to stop drinking, but the key is be able to stop drinking and enjoy life. There's a big difference, you know. You can sort of stop drinking and you can, you know, I did periods of 3 years, I did periods of 6 years, which I know we spoke about when I was in Sonsibuk one time with you, Andy, and you'd had a skinful and you said, oh, I don't know how you can do this. And I think at the time I'd said, you know, that I was fine with it. And I think you thought then that I was kind of fixed. But until I met this guy and did the life coaching, the stopping drinking was something I could do, but stopping drinking permanently and enjoying life without it is quite a long way away. And it took me 18 months of pretty intense work on myself and studying sort of human behavior. We read a load of psychology, philosophy, and that's all I read now. The only thing I ever read is books about psychology, philosophy. I've also just recently read a lot of books on the Jewish Holocaust, and there's a girl called woman, should I say, Edith Edgar, who wrote a book called Choices, which is a fantastic read. And, you know, just seeing someone else's, you know, it's a completely different scenario to my struggles with alcohol, but how her struggles with being a Holocaust victim had, you know, how she turned that round into a really positive thing. So, you know, I like reading stuff like that, which just sort of goes into depth about how people come out of various different scenarios. And I know one of the reasons I'm actually quite open about this is because, and if anyone does want to contact me or Andy to contact me to get my number or to PM me, I'm more than happy to talk to many people, because, you know, we've all been in the music business for a long time, and you know, unfortunately it does sometimes take its toll on people. And if, you know, it's not like you're going out and you're drinking in your 20s and then all of a sudden you grow up and you have a family and you move on. People have been clubbing for a long time. Sometimes it can have an effect, and people find it quite hard to moderate or sort of correct their sort of behavior, or, you know, it does sort of start having its effect on their kind of mental well-being. So yeah, it's been a long time coming, but I knew from the moment I spoke to this guy, I literally phoned him up, and within the first half an hour conversation, which wasn't a coaching session, it was just an introductory phone call, I just put the phone down and I just thought, I just knew that this was the end, you know.
Or the start of the end. Brilliant.
The start of my life, really.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just and we looked, you know, we never really looked too much about alcohol or the misuse of alcohol. We looked at things like learning new skills, and I don't mean like new tools for stopping you drinking. You know, I remember him saying to me one day, he said, right, he said, your homework, because I used to get homework all the time, loads of reading, loads of things to do. And he said, right, your homework for this week is I want you to go away and learn 2 new things. I went, okay. And he actually said to me after about 3 months, he said, I've been meaning to mention to you, when I gave you that homework about learning 2 new things, he said, I've been doing this for years. He said, you were the first person who has not said, like what? And he said, I knew then that you were going to be all right, that you were going to be fixed, because the way you've approached this was different. He said, you just totally got whatever I've thrown at you. And so anyway, the week went past, and we had our session, and he said, right, he said, how did you get on with your homework? I said, oh, fine. He said, right, what have you learned? I said, well, I've learned 2,000-year-old board game, Chinese board game called Go. And he went, right. And it's a bit like a chess game, but it's played on a bigger board. I can't remember how many squares on it now, but there's two sizes, like a medium and then an even larger board. And it's about a strategy. You play with like little draft pieces, and it's about moving areas and sort of containing areas. I played it for weeks online against loads of young Chinese kids and never won once, but I knew how to play it, you know. And then he said, right, okay. So what else have you got? So all our meetings were on Zoom, so I just went to one side and pulled out a gingerbread loaf that I'd baked. And he said, what's that? I said, it's a gingerbread loaf. And he said, why that? I said, well, I've never, ever baked anything in my entire life. And I said, it's one of the most enjoyable. I said, I don't really eat cake anyway, but it's been one of the most enjoyable things that I've done, because for the first time in my life, I realised why they always say to people who are carrying a little bit of weight, don't eat cake, because, you know, there's like half a slab of butter in it. There's like half a bag of sugar in it. And it was only about this big, you know. So
I know about weight.
Well, listen, I could quite easily sit here and listen to this story all evening, but there's not a lot of Soulful House Mafia about it, is there? But no,
for the man, and that's what this is all about.
But that I'm just about to come back around and say this is the important thing. This is the crux of the people behind the music. People forget that, you know, there are all these stories and all of these things that everybody goes through, and it's incredible to sit and listen to it. And because we haven't spoken for a long time, and it's not the kind of thing that you would ever stand shoulder to shoulder somebody with at a bar, whether you're drinking water or you've got a beer in your hand or whatever, you know. Craig, you don't strike me as being Mr. Smith as a person who's been through that journey of battling with drink particularly, but I know just from the things that you've said during us talking here that there have been times where you've struggled with this whole DJ thing. For you, it's just about, and I remember having a conversation with you on the way to Croatia, and you were saying, you know what, Andy, it's just about the music. All I'm about is sharing the music. I don't need all the bullshit that goes with it. And you were a guy who, you made a comment to me that it stuck with me. And you said to me that, you know what, when I'm going out and I'm getting paid, you're not paying me to play the music. I'll play the music for free. You're paying me for the inconvenience of having to get there, being away from the home and all of that. So tell us about some of those moments that have stuck with you.
Well, it's like, you know, I mean, probably a few years I've got this, but it's like, I suppose you could call it imposter syndrome. Do you know what I mean? It's like, a lot of the time I'm like, just in life in general, it's like a lot of people see me as being like, because of the way I carry myself, it's a
facade.
A facade. You know what I mean? And it's like inside I'm quite a shy, nervous person. But that's not what I project. And eventually when you project that enough, that's what you become. That takes over. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, for me, and especially nowadays, Andy, it's like there's so, and I know the world isn't built for me now, but in the music we're in, there's so much emphasis on image and content. And I know there's a game to be played. There's always been a game to be played. I just ain't playing it. Mm-hmm. And to the detriment of my career, I know. Sitting at 54-year-old, I know it's to the detriment of my career. But you know what? I've always felt good.
And so you should. But the thing is, I mean, we can all sit here and tell the tales of situations we've been in, people that we've been around. But there aren't many people that I know, Craig, who would be held in such high esteem as yourself from the likes of Rich Medina, Kenny Dope, Kerry Chandler, Phil Asher. You know, these guys put you up there on a pedestal. So, you know, you can back that up totally. And you say there's no place in this world for you. I think there is a place, but we all forget because we see all the glory and the lights that other people attain, but we've never really reached for that. You know, myself having, you know, a somewhat of a crossover track.
We come from a different time.
Exactly. We are the underground. That's all we ever wanted to be.
It's not a problem. The underground doesn't see the underground that we were involved with. That's long gone. You
But
know what I mean?
has it? Is it
But
not there for a younger crowd?
But the underground is some boy in Portland, Seattle, in a garage making noises on some machine.
Mm-hmm.
Some 15-year-old. That's the underground. Something that's got nothing to do with us.
Yeah. So, but it exists. It's not us
Of course,
anymore.
it'll always exist.
Yeah.
Because that's the next thing, and it's not for us. We were at a certain pivotal point in time, musically, in this country, in the world.
Mm-hmm. I actually watched a documentary the other day talking about very, very quickly. I can't even remember the name of it now, as ridiculous, but it was basically focusing on Martin Garrix. You guys may have seen it, and it had Carl Cox, Louis was on there. What We Made or something like that. I thought it was very focused on EDM, but then it also spoke about the birth of the acid house movement and how it progressed and the change of scenario, and how this guy Martin Garrix, 15, 16-year-old.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen the film.
It's incredible, right?
Yeah. But it's again. I never see what I don't. What I've never again. It's what I said earlier. It's like any time I feel any kind of emotion, like I think, any kind of negative thing, like, how are they getting ahead, or how's this happening, or why is this popular? I go and do something.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go and do a radio show, or I'll go and do a mix, or I'll make some beats, or I'll go through my collection and sort it out, or I'll cheer up. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, and I realized that I wasted so much time when I was younger, taking, not dealing with that.
And just getting,
you know what I mean? And getting too wound up and too caught up, and it's just like, just calm down.
Yes.
You know, one thing
I could see some to a young guy the other day who's like, how do I get in? How do I do what you're doing? It's like, you're 27. You're already got X amount of people on thousands on SoundCloud. You've got tunes out. It's like, relax.
Don't rush it.
Find yourself first. Like, that's the one thing I knew with DJing.
Sensei.
But one thing with DJ, that's the one thing in life. I'm saying imposter syndrome. That's the one thing in life I've got full confidence in. My ability to do that. Everything else, I think I'm like Rain Man. I'm an idiot. Do you know what I mean?
Far from
when
it.
it comes to when it comes to music, that's the only thing I've got confidence in.
Can I just say one?
Just quickly going into that, if you listen to virtually every one of the stories that myself and Andy have been involved with, talking through guys that we know and love, including yourselves, our journeys all tended to be accidental. They were not pathways that we aspired towards. Like now, that 15-year-old in a Portland basement is doing that because he sees an end game.
Yeah. The internet changed everything.
Yeah, and you were asked to DJ because someone didn't turn up. So was Steve. So was I. I just happened to be the only idiot that had the record collection that could play for longer.
Like, for instance, if I can stop, my thing is, like, when I first started, me being Scottish, I thought was a negative.
Yeah.
Because obviously where we were, there was no scene. We built the scene.
Same.
Built the scene. You're the same, right?
Same.
We were the same. We built the scene because there wasn't a community. No. We had to build that.
That's exactly.
And I used to think it was a negative when I first started going down to Garage City.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is like the Wild West for me. Walking into that booth in Bar Rumba in the mid-90s, and it's like you're just looking at them all standing up the back, and like Neil Pearson, I'll tell you, the first time I went in, see in Scotland, say chief, see to call somebody chief is a term of endearment, right? Down London, it's a no-no, right? So the first time I played, I walked in at the booth, they're all staff, I can't remember who's all there, and Neil goes, I just watched you go, all right, chief, all right, chief, all right, chief, and everybody just went, and you just went on, put a tune on, and just went straight in. And I think that actually helped me, because it was like, God, you better pull this off tonight. But I didn't know.
Yeah.
Do you know one thing I think we all forget is we weren't DJs, we were record collectors.
Yeah, I'm a record collector. That's all I am.
That is the difference between now, because people want to be a DJ because they see it as a career. It was
Yeah.
when I was playing at Limelights and I was getting 150 quid. That was loads of money. You know, Nicky Holloway and Pete Tong and Paul Oakenfold, they're only getting 300 quid, 350 quid.
Mate, the first time I played, it was like after I played, I realised, wait a minute, I can drink and have a dance and chase the girls and DJ and play my own music.
Yeah.
That's like I just thought, oh, this is just going to ruin me having a dance, chasing girls, listening to music I like. And then I realised, wait a minute, I can actually be in control and get paid.
Someone's going to give you some money now.
You've leveled up. You've leveled up totally.
Like an epiphany first time.
Can I also just say one thing as well? I think you'll back me up on this, Andy and Craig. Craig Smith, I'm talking about now. The one thing which I think sets you apart, and I think you might, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but I think that the way you play music and at the pace you play music, I think is what sets you apart. You're never scared to keep that tempo cool. You know, I would never see you like being in a you won't speed it up, you'll just groove it up. You know what? It's that movement. And I remember the first time I heard you at Southport, I was with my friend Gary Robson, who's a massive jazz collector, and we stood at the back, and you absolutely blew us apart. And I remember saying to you about a record at the time, and nobody goes up to DJs. Well, people do, but DJs don't go up to DJs and try and sing records in a club. But I did. I was trying to sing a saxophone line to an old Rare Groove record that you'd mixed in with like a sort of down tempo. You know, you were playing that sort of 106 kind of thing.
I remember.
And it was just, you're standing at the back, dying to go to the toilet. You're thinking, no. I'm just going to have to, my brother's just going to have to hang out till this is finished and then I can go, And I think that's what sets you apart, It's very easy. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy and Craig, but, there's times when you feel the dance floor, is going a bit and you try to bring it up with a little bit of pace or a little bit of...
Be brave.
You have a braveness that most people have.
But you know what? That braveness doesn't get you work. Seriously.
I disagree.
You'll be surprised, Craig. I think you'll be surprised, mate. I think. Well,
you've just come from a gig on Saturday for Deep Into Soul, and everyone's just talking about you smashing it apart.
That was my first gig in 19 months in a club because of COVID.
Yeah.
And do you know what? It was like, and I hate saying it. I hate saying like, back in the day because every day is Sundays. Do you know what I mean? It's like every era's like I don't believe in this, like, because my mother's generation would have said the same to their parents. Do you know what I mean? Every generation thinks they're doing it. But Saturday, and I think you said it earlier, Steve, that after COVID, or maybe it was yourself, Craig, after COVID, I feel a difference with people, and I felt it at Sunset Beat, and I really felt it on Saturday.
Massive.
People have got a different energy.
New enthusiasm, isn't it?
Like it's like the energy they had when they were 19.
I think it's that appreciation, isn't it?
That place was bouncing on Saturday.
Yeah.
Bouncing. But it was just electric.
Shouts out to Neil and to Si for all the hard work they put in.
100%. And do you know what? Do you know what it also proved? That was a full UK lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Good one as well, wasn't it? Killer lineup that was.
It's quite funny actually. I'm gonna talk to Neil Pearce at length about his promoting and the lineups and a lot of other things, because Neil and I have had very many deep conversations over very many different occasions. So, but I'll save that conversation when I get to talk to Neil face to face.
What they're doing at Deep Into Soul now,
let's talk about that very quickly, because I would like to. We're all doing all right for time, right, at the moment.
Yeah.
I want to call it quickly if that's
go on,
all right.
mate. No problem. While Steve just nips off, I want to bring us back to mention. You say about Deep Into Soul. You did a little bit of a tribute back to back with Sai Says around Phil. I know you struggled very deeply with Phil, and I hope it's not too difficult for you to talk about the impact on that gentleman had on you, and you Phil had on the scene. I mean, the amount of outpouring of emotions when he passed away. I've not seen much like it, and unfortunately, it's not going to be the last time we lose people so close to us. But this was another level, right?
It was out of the blue, mate. That's the problem. It was just out of the blue.
Mm-hmm.
It was out of the blue, and the thing is, he was the centre of everybody.
Yeah,
think about it.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to say it.
I mean, from America to Europe to the UK. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knew each other through Phil. Really.
Yeah.
I'm just proud he was my mate.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? He taught me things because we were. Everybody goes on. You know how people used to go, "Oh, you look alike," or "You look similar." We were good mates, but we were same age. All these similarities, musical taste, upbringing, but we were two sides. That his personality was different to mine. I'm a loudmouth, aggressive, can be. He was like a lovely man, and he taught me so many times. He'd be like, "Why are you like that? Why have you flown off the handle? Why?" But he would do it in a way that would be, I'm an only child. It was genuinely like having a brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't listen to anybody. And him, I would go, okay. You know what I mean?
Was he the one who pushed you down the production road?
No. I was doing that before I met him. Okay. Just. I met a couple of years before I met him.
Uh-huh. What would you say were some of your crowning moments with, not necessarily successfully, financial wise, but what are you most proud of? Again,
it's imposter syndrome. It's like do you know? Notice I don't really play anything I do, but when I look back now, again, getting older, you realize what's what.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff I've done with Graham, some of the stuff I've done with Graham, we didn't reinvent the wheel, but we did something at a time that seemed to strike a chord.
Mm-hmm. And it hit chuggy. Chuggy is my word.
Chuggy, I mean, it was like we were at the forefront of something without even knowing it. Mm-hmm. Luckily, we're both similar that we never meant to do that, and we certainly weren't jumping on anything because we got offers. I mean, we got offers at the time when that whole slow-mo thing was a thing, which turned into new disco, which is a term that I despise. Like, I wanted to do an album because remember De La Soul did an album called De La Soul Are Dead, right? They did an album called De La Soul Are Dead, right? And what they were trying to push us down this road where it was like, you could see with interviews and that they were trying to put us in that category. And I wanted to do an album, New Disco is Dead. You remember, like the old thing in the 70s, Disco is Dead.
Yeah.
You know that thing, but just do that. It was poo-pooed, obviously.
Too negative.
Everything is cyclical, isn't it? It all comes back.
And it's like that was just like like that happened when I was 38, 40. I've had waves of going well and not going well,
mm-hmm.
but I've always just chugged away, just underneath. Just
yeah. And at the moment, so tell us now. I'm quite ignorant to everything that's going on at the moment, and quite happy to say so. Is 51st Fathom still going with Pete?
No, what we've stopped at. Pete's starting his own thing. No problems.
Mm-hmm.
All good. I wish him the best. Like, it looks like he's going to do well. His production's really good. He's been picked up by. I mean, I'm not going to say he's been picked up by, but he's been picked up by somebody pretty serious as well.
Okay.
It's going to come out. I'd let him do that.
Is that as Frederick or?
Yeah, it's Frederick. I've got we've got the Bandcamp up and running for Sixborough.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think now the platform's up, I just sit and do music all day. That's all I do.
I am listening to you, Mr. Smith. The other way, Steve. Where you gone? I can't see you at all. Yeah. No, it's me. Let me open up your camera a little bit more.
I've had a smoke. This is confusing.
There you go.
I've had the smoke.
So like you were talking about the music that I'm proud of. I'm proud of the stuff I do with Ricky as well.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
You love and I love.
there's another character. I will.
Like,
I need to have a
you
conversation
could
with
do a
him.
show on your own with him, and it'd be box office.
I mean, you know, there's some people when you mention their name, it just warms you with joy. How did you meet him? Ricky Reed we're talking about, obviously.
Yeah, no, it's actually quite a funny one. There was a local bar, which was the bar in town, and I played there now and again, but it wasn't really something. I was more playing away. I mean, I wasn't really playing local. And then I seen him, and one of the local papers had a bit on him, like playing at this thing, and it was like he was basically saying all my taste, and I was like, "Who's this bald specky bastard?" like
you?
No, that's like that. But I was like, how's he like everything I like, and I don't know him. That's what was getting me.
Mm-hmm.
And then pure chance, I think the next week we were in the same. We met, and I was like, wow. And then he was like, I'll do music, blah blah blah. And I was like, really? Because he doesn't. If you know him socially, it's like you wouldn't think that's what he does. So he sent me some music, and I was like, right, whatever, let's see what this guy does. Like I wasn't expecting anything. And then there was loads of ideas, but they were all like 2-3 minutes long. And I was like, no, these need to be. And I listened to them, and I was like, wow, what are these samples? What samples is he using? These are amazing. Phoned them up, was like, mate, what's your samples? Because I know my samples and I don't know any of these. And he's like, no, I'll play everything. I was like, you're having me fucking on. And then I was like, who's the vocal sample though? He goes, no, that's me singing. And I was like, are you kidding me? Some guy for Livingston. And brilliant. He's a talented dude.
Did you start around 2008, 2009?
Yeah. That was the first release. Was on Rest of the Soul.
I wouldn't say I was one of your biggest supporters, but I was a very, very strong supporter of all of your stuff. Still am. I remember having a conversation, and the way that you built your records were very much the way that Timmy and I used to build the records with Timmy. It's all about the breakdowns and holding your nerve through the breakdown and building and taking it somewhere, you know. Talking about productions, you're having Steve, you said you've been producing for quite a long time. I didn't realise it had gone that far back that you'd been producing, and you've released slowly through the years, but you're having a renaissance now, if that's the right word to use. You know, you're currently like riding high again.
Well, that's and that again was like we're talking about chance meetings. It was Sonsi Beat 2, where I met Martin at Jazz for the first time, and I was working with Richard Frost and a girl called Mello Baku, and we had a little thing going on. I said to him, look, you know, I'd like to send it to you. So I basically sent him this record, and he said, yeah, it's nice. He said, if you can do a house mix, then I'll release it. So we did. Unfortunately, that group of people, we went our separate ways. And it wasn't particularly nice breakup either, but yeah, Martin said to me, so what are you going to do now? I went, I don't know. I said, it's left a bit of taste in my mouth, because Elliot was very young at the time, and sort of finding the time to go in the studio and work and look after a young lad was tricky. So I was working down in Nottingham, back down there again, working for a fabric company. So I used to drive down now and again, and I said, look, Martin, he's based in Derby, and I said, I have got a couple of songs that, you know, they're okay, but just, you know, maybe next time I'm passing, I'll play them to you. So I went. He said, yeah, come in the studio and we'll work on them. So I went down on a Sunday, and we ended up Stu Boyd, which is one of his good friends. He turned up quite late for Sunday dinner, and then we ended up Sunday just sort of disappeared, and we only went into the studio for an hour in the evening, and then the next day I had a little bit of time before I had to go to my job in Nottingham. So we only spent a couple of hours, but I went in the studio and played him some art, and he went, great. He said, there's not a lot needs doing to this. So I had the stems, so I exported the stems, and literally within, I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to go in the studio with Martin or see him working, doing any of his live stuff, but he works at a phenomenal pace. Like I've never seen anyone in the studio work before, and he knows exactly what he's doing and just gets there as quick as possible. So you look at stuff and he'd say to me, right, what's this sound doing? Is it working? Yes or no? No. Right, that's gone. And he taught me how to be.
That's how you have to be.
Brutal with my production. So clear it out, clear it all out, and then, you know, with the mix, poke sort of different frequencies out, try different sort of percussive sounds, see what you can make, you know, really drive like a certain part of the mid-range out of a percussion sound to make it sound really different. He taught me a few little things, basically mixed them, like one track we did in an hour and the next track did, you know, in an hour and a half, something like that. He said, right, these are done, go away and arrange them. I said, right. I said, oh, that's great. I said, you know, obviously you've helped me with these. What do you want to do? I said, you know, you want to release them. You've obviously, you know, you're well within your rights to want to do that. He said, do you know what? He said, if I was you, he said, you've got time on your side. He said, everyone's releasing singles. He said, do an album. He said, you're more than capable. He said, you've not done an album yet. So that's when the idea of Able came about, and sort of reinventing myself. I wanted, because at the time I was very pigeonholed as being a Soulful House DJ from Southport. That was my thing. And I wanted to try and shake that off, you know, because I was bored of Soulful House, as you know.
Oh, you can't say that. That's sacrilege.
Sorry, I don't mean bored of Soulful House in its entirety. What I mean is to actually play a full Soulful House set.
That's the thing that's always bothered me, is that people, and I think it's got worse again, societal, is like pigeonhole.
Yeah.
When it comes to music, it's like I wouldn't even say I just play dance music, because I don't.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, so I just find it difficult. I find that very difficult.
And I wanted to sort of get away from, and I was playing some deeper stuff and some more electronic stuff. So it was a natural progression to go to do that. So the invention or the birth of Able was to, and I kind of hid behind the name when I released the album. We didn't say it was me. We kind of gave this impression that it was someone like a European producer, kept it all a little bit quiet, and then eventually, obviously, it came out. But it was good because it gave me a chance to try something new and go a bit deeper, go a bit more electronic. And now I never know what I'm going to play. You know, it can be deep house, it can be Afro.
That's good.
How it should be, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, and I love it because I never get bored now. You know, and I think what happened as well, when I did, for 10 years, I was doing 5 gigs every week in Newcastle. Did a Friday, 2 Saturdays, a Sunday, and a Monday or a Wednesday. And
did that not just fry you, though?
You what, sorry?
Did that not just fry you?
Oh, completely. That didn't really help with the drinking and the anxiety either. So, it was too much. It was virtually nocturnal. I was doing 17 and a half hours DJing a week, and I was bored. And I was going and playing these gigs and buying as much music as I could every week. By the end of the weekend, I said, God, I have to go through my records again. And just like every week, it was a chore to entertain myself. And I think the
minute it's like that, it's time to just step back.
Do you think now with the resurgence coming out of the lockdown, have you got that energy again? That you find that new energy because you have started to pick up momentum again? Yeah,
absolutely. And I think I was lucky that my first gig was Sunset Beat, and that was, you know, every time you play there, you spoil anyway. But as the first gig after,
I keep losing half of your face. Move to your right hand side. Yeah. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, carry on. Sensei
I can,
beat.
I can see my thing, which has got loads of side on it. So I'll just stick in the middle and look at the left-hand side.
That's
okay. So yeah, it was, yeah, it was. I felt quite spoiled to actually do that. And when I got to the gig, you know, we obviously had to fly there, and I've taken obviously Jen and the kids have gone every time now. Elliot's 11 and he's been to 9 Sonsi beats now. You know, some people recognise Elliot more than they do me. You know, so
How many has there been? 11.
It started in 2010.
Yeah, there
But
is.
he's probably been to the same as me or one, because I missed the first 2.
I missed the first one, and I missed one when Emily was born.
I missed the first 2.
As did Elliot.
And is it Petrocane?
Petrocane.
I'm Scottish.
Petrocane. Yeah, that'll do.
Petrocane.
Peter Kane.
I'm terrible at pronouncing things.
Do you know what? It was funny because when I got to the gig, I saw some people, and it was just nice because I think the last few years it's been over 3,000 people now. This time, obviously, with COVID and some people being nervous, some people maybe not being double vaccinated, that not so many people came and they rolled their ticket over to the following year. But you know, there was still probably 2/3, 3/4 of what there would have normally been. But it didn't sort of bother anyone. It was just nice to get there.
You know what? There was actually pros. There was actually pros. Like, you didn't have a queue at the bar.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Just
you met loads of people that weren't British. Fantastic.
yeah. And that was, I really, really noticed
That was fantastic, I must say. And the people you knew from the UK that were there, you got more time to spend with them because you weren't going from one, you weren't being a social butterfly.
Exactly.
So
and
it was actually,
when I played the first time on the beach stage, what I wanted to do, because we were all back out again, I wanted to bring some of the records that I felt had been big for me, not
in the
just
lockdown.
big, but like emotionally big records during Sonsi Beats, and records that were, maybe had really worked at a specific time for me over the years. And I thought, I'm going to have to like bring some of these back just to, just almost like a little bit of a showcase of what's been in the past. And I remember playing, I think the first thing I played was
Thousand Memories.
Was the Julian Gomes.
1,000 Memories.
1,000 Memories. And do you know what? Honestly, I nearly broke down.
I know. It's one of those songs.
Overwhelmed. It just was like, it was up here, and it just was, I was awash with emotion, and I played then I sort of played another couple of newer records, and it took me a couple of records to get over that, and then I played another record, the Cruising Nuremberg, More and More.
No.
And again, that sort of really got me enough, and it didn't just get me. I could see
you could
it
feat with everyone else. A record that really reminds me of you, Craig. You and Phil from Sensei Beat. The Sun compares to you. Is it The Sun compares to you? That is your record for me of Sensei Beat.
That's not a bad thing. Yeah.
We remembered you.
Incredible. Yeah. But listen, guys, we're sitting here. We've been chatting away for 90 minutes, and I'm always conscious of us taking up too much of everyone's time, and me taking up your time. I mean, is there any parts of the story that you feel was we haven't even touched on, because there's so much. I know. I mean, there's so much, and the whole point of what I'm trying to do here is, some of them have been like really jovial, and we've just been bouncing for non-stop, and then others sitting listening to this, it's been really quite deep and
like a therapy session.
It's been like a therapy session, actually.
Like therapy. I'm just sat on extremely relaxed, thinking, my God, these boys have done a hell of a lot, and it's just now lovely. The people that haven't known the stories, that don't know you, and why they don't know you is beyond me, because there might be a few, but now they do know you, and they see the vulnerabilities behind the personas as well.
I think most people in our business could tell you a story about mental health.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Whether it was present before they got into the business, or whether the business has caused it or exacerbated it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we all struggle to some point.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think sometimes we've you know that you were talking about the mask earlier and the persona that we all kind of everyone has a mask, but not only that, I sort of sometimes think that, you know, we get into it because we're record collectors, we want to entertain people, we want to share what we know, and then sometimes I think when it grows and you actually people realize you're quite good at what you're doing and like what you do, all of a sudden you find yourself in a auditorium full of like a few thousand people.
That's the thing. That's the thing I always say. It's like standing there is the last thing I should be doing. I'd be more than happy to stand behind a sheet, or I'd be more than happy to just like to. No, I want to see everybody. I mean, I think that's essential. I need to see everybody, but I'm more than happy not. And it's
you don't want, and you don't put a show on when you're playing, do you?
No, it's not even like you know me. It's not even love me. It's like I just
listen to this.
That's all it is. And that's all it is.
Well, listen, I'm gonna wrap this up now, and I'll say that we've still got a lot of people to talk to, and then when we get through a lot of these people, we'll bring you back on, and we'll be chatting with other guys as well, because there'll be a lot of other stories that we can bounce off one another.
Not even touched on what we're meant to really talk about.
Well, it's all right. That's okay. You know, it is what it is.
So many stories.
So many stories, so many pivotal moments, so many important things that you've experienced. We didn't talk about getting, you know, the traveling that you did, Craig, because I know you traveled a hell of a lot. Steve, the benefits and everything that you've been afforded due to, you know, the successes that you've had. And Craig and I have covered everything already anyway, so we're just happy to just sit and listen.
I mean, there's like things like, you know, like somebody like Dave Camacho. That's how I got my break at Gary City.
Right.
Like it was quite, you know, it was quite a thing from like, because I was unknown from Scotland, and they came up and played for us. It was him. He came and played a couple of times for us, and he was like, he went down, and he was like, "Look, you've got to book this guy." And my mix was sitting on the table. Remember Ollie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I was ready to bin it. It was just sitting on the table all week. He goes, "You know what? I'll give it a listen."
Wicked. Well, last week, 2 weeks ago, when we shared the video, did you enjoy that video, by the way, Craig, the Miami video?
Yeah.
You know, we saw Camacho sat there, and it was incredible. But listen, I keep saying we're going to end this, and we'll end up carrying on talking for another half an hour. I'm going to let you guys go about what you got to do. And I will say thank you so much for giving me your time, and I promise that it's not going to be the last time that we do this. You know, if it's a one-on-one, you want to have a chat and tell your story, I'll be more than happy to do that on a podcast. We can sit doing that on our own time whenever you're ready, both you, Mr. Smith, and you, Mr. Butler. It's been tremendous catching up with you both, because we haven't spoken for a long time, and we will put that right. And Mr. Bartlett, I will speak to you very soon. I've got the small matter of a little party coming up on Friday I need to take care of.
Yeah, you have good luck. I'm glad I'm not playing, so it'll be successful.
But I am going to say my farewells to everybody. I'm going to press this button, which is going to kick you out of the stream, and I'm sure you want to carry on talking, messaging people. Thank you so much, guys. Love you so much. Yeah.
Thanks very much for having us on. Cheers, Andy.
Respect.
Hey guys. Take care.
Right, there they go. Quite fascinating, really, isn't it? Mr. Smith really did lift the lid on how appearances can be deceiving. You don't really know that DJ up there with the headphones on. You don't know the person behind the music sometimes. And that was deep. I really enjoyed that. Could easily have sat here all night talking, but I have one or two things that I need to do. People listening intensely inside the live stream, I want to say hi to Rupert and to Pax, also to Mr. Alders. Shouts out, Dave. I'll see you very soon. And I know we get a lot more people coming back watching the recordings than we do getting us live, for whatever reason that is. That's all good. It's all about the quantity. It's not about the quality. I got that wrong, didn't I? It's all about the quality. It's not about the quantity. Always remember that. I'd be quite happy sitting in front of 10 people in a bar with those guys telling their story. Shouts out to Huggy. How are you, brother? I didn't realise that you were there. And anyone else, the rest of the crew. We've all got great stories to tell, and we will all be back at some point or other, mixing and matching up the panelists, the lads and the ladies at some point to continue with the tales. So right, I'm going to go back to this screen. I've got all my cameras all moved around because I've packed a lot of the studio away. That's why the angle's slightly different. Getting ready for a little party I've got coming up at the weekend. For anyone that isn't aware, yesterday Spain announced that we are now officially allowed to go out and dance. Can you believe it? We almost had another vocal booth weekender where people weren't actually allowed to dance, but that's all changed now. So to all intents and purposes, we are all systems go. The first record drops on Friday, and we will be live across the next 7 days, the 5 days, Friday through to Wednesday. You'll be able to join us through vocalboothweekender.com. There's a lot of people who won't be with us, so do check that out. You will hear some brilliant music from some DJs who you might not have heard before, but they are, without a shadow of a doubt, some of my favourite DJs on the planet. Shouts out to Rob. I hope you heard your name earlier get a mention. Thank you for passing through. Mr. Oxley and Mark says, keep up the great work. Thank you very much. And it won't be long before you're going to join us here in Spain as well, Mr. Hug. Right, so cameras there, looking at my other screen here. And I'm going to tell you for the final time this Sunday, Dance for Stevie in respect, in homage to Steve Lavinier, who is still going through it. He's still battling on, and the family are confident that with your help, they will be able to restyle his home, ready for when he returns back to his familiar surroundings. And as soon as he is back with friends and family in those familiar surroundings, everyone is confident of his future. So please do go and look for that if you're not going to be there at the party on Sunday. That's just about it for me, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm not sure when I'll be back doing another one of these, but if you love my voice, then just come and join me at vocalboothweekender.com from Friday, because I will be drinking a lot, I will be talking a lot, and I will be dancing a lot. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me the inspiration, and thank you for giving me your time. Love ya. Take care now.